Welcome to Beyond Entertainment, the new podcast by Panasonic Avionics. I'm Andy Masson, VP of Product here at Panasonic, and I'm here today talking to Dave Lincoln from Lincoln Technologies. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
So, Lincoln Technologies, why don't you talk us a bit about what does Lincoln Technologies do? What's your passion?
So my passion is to make the best displays in the world. So at Lincoln Tech Solutions, that's what we try to do. So whether it's OLED technology, mini LED technology, standard TFT technology, and we can discuss all of those. But yeah, that's what we like to do, provide our customers with the best display solutions for their application.
Yeah, we're really interested in this. Obviously, our customers are buying IFE screens today. They're buying them from us. They're buying from other companies out there. So there's a variety of different technologies out there. Can you talk to us about the different technologies that are available?
Sure. So currently, if you look at a screen in IFE, it uses basic TFT technology. Now, this technology is pretty old. It's been basically the same for the past 20 years. When you see the flat TV screens on the wall, it's essentially a piece of glass with some LEDs behind it. And usually, if you have your piece of glass like this, the LEDs are along one row, and they just shine down with the diffuser sheet, and you just have somewhat uniform, light behind the glass. It looks really bad by today's standards, in my opinion. But I'm a display snob, so that's why I'm always trying to make the best displays in the world. So that's just the standard TFT display technology that's currently flying in airplanes. Then they have this new technology or newer called QLED. So QLED is it's a layer of quantum dot film. So essentially you have these little quantum dots that are inside of this little film that goes in the backlight behind a standard TFT. And what happens is if you hit these with a unique 455 nanometer wavelength, which is essentially a blue LED, it excites the phosphors in these quantum dots. So you get really high peaks of red and green, and then you have the blue. So you get really high color gamut. Now, color gamut traditionally on a traditional TFT is like 70%, but these new QLEDs can get up to 100%. Color gamut essentially is how many colors it can reproduce, right? So the bigger the number, the more rich it's going to look.
Okay.
And then you have this newer technology you see at like a lot of the Costco's, big box stores called mini LED full array local dimming TVs. I know it's a mouthful. But that's essentially instead of having, your panel right here and you got all the LEDs, on the side shining down, you have all the LEDs facing out right at the individual. And each LED you can control at
like a grid?
Yeah, exactly. A big, massive grid. What that does, it gives you really high contrast. So contrast is essentially if you take a white screen and let's say it's at 1,000 nits. Now a nit is candela per meter squared. So a frame of reference, your cell phone can get to 500 nits. That's how bright it can get, your lumens, right? So if you look at one of these, you can control the different nits levels. So the nice thing about these mini LEDs is you can get them really, really bright. And then the next technology, and another thing about that is contrast level. That's where I was going. So contrast is essentially if you have a white screen and it's running at 1,000 nits and you have an all black screen and that measures, say, 1 nit, well, your contrast level is 1,000 to 1.
Okay.
So with the traditional TFT, you're normally around 1,000 to 1 contrast. With QLED, same thing, around 1,000 to 1. With this mini LED, full array local dimming tech, you can get in the millions to 1.
Really?
Yep. Now, the best technology, if you're looking at just pure experience, particularly for an IFE application, would be OLED. So this is organic LEDs. And so you don't have this backlight, you don't have LEDs in it. Each little subpixel is an organic LED, essentially. In their nature, you have 100% color gamut on the DCI P3 triangle, which is the most widely used and recognized one of what you're trying to achieve in terms of color gamuts. The cool thing about OLED is they have infinite contrast, essentially. So it's just the best, picture quality.
So do the different screen types have different applications that they're suited for?
Definitely. So if you look at automotive, for example, we had a customer come to us and they wanted to design the car of the future. So that was BMW. They said, look, we want to design this car and it's got to be really, really bright. It's got to be 5,000 nits, this display solution, because what they're going to do is bounce that display up off the glass windshield and the whole windscreen was basically going to be the display.
Oh.
So OLED would have been perfect because they wanted high contrast, they wanted high color gamut, but it couldn't achieve the brightness. So we looked at all the different technologies and used mini LED full array local dimming because that could achieve the brightness and we could suffer a little on the contrast to achieve that type of technology. So they displayed that at CES this year in January. Is called the iVision D, their car of the future.
Oh, I saw it. Awesome car.
Yeah, right. So it really depends on the application, what you want to do.
Okay, and then for the aerospace and for in-flight entertainment, our customers, what's best for the cabin? What really fits into that paradigm?
So if we went ahead and did a mini, LED full array local dimming for in-flight entertainment, the plane would never get off the ground. So it'd be the worst thing in the world. But I mean, if you didn't know what you were doing, you'd say, hey, I see all these TVs at Costco. I want that, right? But you got to look deeper as to what this technology can do and what its limitations are. For example, if you use a mini LED, you're going to have a massive backlight. You're going to most likely need to have some type of thermal management. Thermal management can be passive or it can be active. So you're either putting fans in there, which are going to add weight and power and thickness, or you're going to use metals, and metal's heavy, right? And then the power consumption. If you've got thousands of LEDs in there, they take a ton of power, right? So and then in addition to the brightness levels, you're just going to kill everybody because it's going to be way too bright inside the cabin. So you're going to have a lot of frustrated customers. So, I mean, again, currently flying is the basic TFT. Now people are moving to QLED for in-flight entertainment, but to me, the holy grail would be OLED. You have, the weight is just insignificant. Like it's like paper thin. Your power is next to nothing, so you don't have all these LEDs driving it. And then you have that infinite contrast level, so you don't have eye fatigue when sitting on a flight. And it operates really well at these low light conditions.
And we've obviously gone with OLED for our new solution. We feel pretty strongly about that. The advantages we kept seeing were, the dark cabin and the true black of a dark cabin.
Yeah. So, for example, getting back to that whole contrast ratio thing, right? So if you have a traditional QLED panel, for example, right? And you're running it, all the LEDs are on all the time. So if it's a dark scene and the screen's all black, well, it's going to look like it's almost gray because the LEDs are on full power. You can't control them, right? Now, you could control them with the mini LED, but again, that's not suitable for in-flight entertainment. It's just too heavy. Too much heat's generated. Yeah, so that's why OLED gets you those true blacks. You can be down at that one nit level and your contrast just pops and it looks amazing.
Now, one of the pieces of feedback that, we've received quite a bit on is, the color is amazing. The darkness is incredible. Obviously, they've talked a lot about the weight, etc. But when they come to the negative side, they talk about Burnin, image retention. It's come up more than once or twice. Can you talk to me a bit about Burnin and image retention, firstly in OLED, but then just generally on screens?
Sure. So in OLED, burn-in and image retention were a major concern back in the days. If you look 20 years ago and you had one of those early adopter cell phones with an OLED, you would see the little status bar showing your battery icon and it'd just be burned in. Like that's just the way they were. Well, OLEDs have been around now in cell phones for decades. When's the last time you've seen the little battery icon burned in on your phone? It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
So what we've done as an industry is we've come up with a lot of different hardware tricks and a lot of different software tricks and algorithms. So it's all kind of baked into the panels now on the OLED side through just various IP techniques. So it's just non-existent.
What about on the other panels? Can they suffer from burn-in?
So yeah, any traditional panel, whether it's the mini LED, the QLED, TFT, they will suffer from burn-in and image retention as well. It's just a fact. Any panel will. But fortunately, you don't have a static image on there for hundreds of hours at a time. It's constantly refreshing and showing a different panel. If you put any panel into like some brutal test, I can probably find a way to get burn-in to happen, but it's just not practical anymore in the real world with just the amount of different content that people watch constantly.
Okay, so what about the weight? What's the weight difference between the various panels? You talked a bit about the mini LED being super heavy. What about the TFTs compared to the OLEDs?
A traditional panel is going to be, it could be pounds, right? Just depending on the backlight and the size. Whereas, these OLEDs are just, grams and ounces, right? It's just not even close. Some of these OLEDs are, like a couple sheets of paper. They're just millimeters thin, right? It's amazing how thin you can make these things because you don't need that big bulky backlight. And with that big backlight structure, with all those LEDs, it's usually made out of aluminum or some type of metal, which adds even more weight, right? So it's just, again, that's great for different applications where you need that rigidity and that structure. But in in-flight entertainment, you've got the seat back that adds more than enough rigidity. We've got these really high-end, impact-resistant cover lenses, which adds a ton of rigidity. So, in this application, it's just a hands-down winner to use OLED.
What are the other applications out there that use OLED today?
Well, I mean, you've got, the Sonys, the Samsungs, with all their mobile devices, the Nintendos of the world. You've got these PC makers, the Dells, and they're essentially, the Cadillac of their industries, right? And well, that brings up a good point. Like Cadillac became the first car maker to put an OLED. They put an OLED in their Escalade back in, I think it was 2021. And again, because there's no more this fear of the burn-in or the image retention. So yeah, I mean, all these industries that want to be the Cadillac of the industry, that's what they're doing. They're going to OLED.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy for our business because you're going to keep that vehicle for at least 10 years probably.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially if you spend the money on a Cadillac.
Yeah, and again, if you've got the world's leading billion-dollar companies all going with this technology, and it's proven. I mean, when's the last time you've just thrown away your laptop because you're frustrated because it's burn-in or anything like? You don't. You love them. The image quality is amazing, and just the refresh rates are faster, and just everything about them is just awesome.
What's next in the industry? Where is it going?
In terms of OLEDs or just display technology?
Maybe one in OLEDs in general, but two, just displays in general. Yeah. What's happening? Is one coming up? Is there a new technology out there? What do you see happening?
In terms of OLEDs, where the industry's going is improving yields. The yields are traditionally not great compared to a TFT manufacturing process because it's much more difficult to cram in millions or billions of these little pixels and make sure that they all work. So the yields aren't where they should be, but they're increasing every year. And that's why you see OLED prices coming down at your big box stores. So that's what the industry is really focusing on. They're focusing on increasing the brightness as well in OLEDs. But again, you don't want that in InFlight Entertainment. So let's shy away from the brighter OLEDs, and a seat back for a while.
Do you think that'll be a problem for a bright cabin or is it okay?
Oh, it'd be incredibly frustrating, right? Like everyone's been on a plane and that one person has the window open when everyone's sound asleep, right? Well, imagine if, a couple of people have their TV screens turned all the way up and they're, 1,000 nits. It would just be
But how about during day flight when the windows are open? No issues with the screens?
No. Just like if you have your laptop in a office setting, right? It's
same technology.
Right?
Same.
Yeah, you can see your laptop, right? But in the industry as a whole, where it's going are the micro LEDs, so micro LEDs. So that's essentially where you take these little mini LEDs that we're currently using now in the full array local dimming and making them so small that they become the pixels. Some of the industry leaders like Apple and Samsung have been dumping billions of dollars into this R&D tech, and they can't perfect it yet. So we're years away from that being a commercial, viable solution. It's just the yields are just, you can build one, but you can't build, tens of thousands of them.
Yeah, maybe look forward to seeing that in 10 years' time, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be a reasonable guess. And when you can see those in the skies. But again, that wouldn't be a good application because all you're going to do is you're going to get brighter, and you don't need that. You don't want that.
Yeah, what is the average?
And then the power it would be significantly higher too.
What is the average brightness you want to see in a cabin, do you think?
Probably about 200 nits roughly is, what would be a good sweet spot. I mean, maybe peaks about 250,
Okay.
Down to the, tens range if it's a really dark scene. But that's the cool thing about OLED is if it's really low brightness scene, you're still going to see everything because the contrast is nearly infinite, right? So it's kind of that holy grail that people have been hunting for.
Yeah, and I've also seen about flexible OLEDs. Can you talk to me a bit about flexible OLEDs? What does that mean?
Yeah, so essentially it is what you said it is. I mean, it's basically you've got your flat panel here and you can move it around in all different directions and it'll still work. They're really cool if you want to put them on, different surfaces and things like this. So that's absolutely an option.
Can you do that with any of the other technologies?
No, not currently.
Okay.
Nope. Theoretically, you could do it with micro LEDs, but again, that's 10 years away. If you could find some flexible substrate that would not crack under the pressure, right? But even that, it's theoretical that it could be done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a whole lot happening in this industry. I mean, it's exciting. We've chosen our way with OLED technology. We feel pretty comfortable about that.
Yeah.
Have we made the right bet?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no argument. I mean, it's just not even close. I mean, go look at, a panel today that's flying in an aircraft. And if you're a snob like me, when it comes to display tech, you pick out everything. Like I'm cursed. My wife is just like, you're impossible to watch TV with, right? But like, if you look at a dark scene on one of these seat back, that's in there now, and look up near the edge or down at the bottom where the LEDs are, you'll see this like little white blooming issue. And it just looks terrible. Like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you're going to pick it out everywhere. So sorry for that if I'm going to ruin your display experience for the next few months until your screens are in planes. Yeah. But yeah, that blooming is a real problem, particularly with the mini LED. So essentially what blooming is in our world is, okay, you've got your screen right here, and let's say everything is all black, right? And just in the middle, you've got this big white dot. So what you're going to do is only the LEDs behind the white dot are going to be turned on, but there's going to be this halo effect of like this bleed over, right? So you see that on the traditional edge-lit TFTs, the QLEDs, and in particular, you see it really bad on the mini LEDs. Now, there's ways to get them better, but that's still not going to match an OLED.
Because you can't give out infinite contrast
Yeah,
ratio.
you can't get infinite.
Okay, Dave Lincoln, thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. Great to talk about screen technologies and where we're going.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
Yeah, no, a lot of fun today. A lot of fun. So you've been listening to Beyond Entertainment. Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you watch your podcast. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon.